1 million borrowers save $5 million in interest payments a month. At a recent White House press briefing, Press Secretary Jen Psaki reiterated that the Biden administration would make a decision about canceling some student loan debt between now and the end of August, or the pause would be extended further. The president has said in the past that he supports canceling up to $10,000 in student loan debt. When lawmakers mentioned student loans, the president said he's asking aides to explore his options. This is a signal to lawmakers that he may be willing to go farther than he pledged during his campaign. One of the lawmakers that met with Biden told reporters they're looking at different options on what they can do, on forgiving it entirely. That was our request. Now, there is already an August 31st deadline that has been set, just as early voting will be starting in several states ahead of the midterm elections. Now, the ongoing public message that the Biden administration is looking into, and officials in the Biden administration have been examining whether the president has the authority through executive action to forgive federal student loan debt, since the president took office more than a year ago. Canceling student loan debt would actually depend on whether a group or individual challenges the action. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Should President Biden cut down student loan debt? Folks, the good news is that many people will be receiving a $2,000 stimulus check this month. To know if you're eligible for this $2,000 stimulus payment, watch until the end of the video. The Social Security Administration has announced that nearly $6,000 in new monthly benefits can actually be claimed by millions of people. The IRS has just sent out over 78 million payments actually. So watch to the end of the video because we're going over a lot of information about Social Security, stimulus checks, SSI, and SSDI. There's a lot of good news to talk about. So folks, a senior citizen advocacy group has estimated that Social Security benefits could increase by 8.9% in January of next year. On the surface, that may sound cheer-worthy, but the mechanics behind the potential boost carry more bad news than good news. The advocacy group released its estimate after the Bureau of Labor Statistics released its March 2022 inflation report. That report showed three primary measures of inflation, rising between 8.1% and 9.4% over the past year. Inflation, or rising prices, is the driver of Social Security COLA. The purpose, everybody, for the COLA is to protect the purchasing power of retirement benefits, so that seniors don't find their buying power sinking as prices increase. Unfortunately, the timing of COLA implementation can be problematic for seniors who are just getting by. Social Security COLAs from changes in the Consumer Price Index for wage earners and clerical workers. Now, specifically, next year's COLA will be the percentage difference between this year's average third quarter and the prior year's third quarter. So, one problem with this system is the delay between when prices rise and when seniors get some relief from the COLA. Seniors wait until January to get the COLA, even though higher prices are affecting their budgets and spending power now. Next year's COLA could also be lower than the Senior Citizens League estimate of 8.9%. That estimate is based on projected CPIW values for July, August, and September. Social Security payments this year will be 5.9%, higher than those recorded in 2021. Currently, the average Social Security benefit is around $1,600, and the maximum is $4,100. But everybody, the maximum Social Security retirement benefit that you can receive depends on the age, when you start collecting, and your earnings history, among other factors. In 2022, the maximum is $3,200 per month for someone who files at a full retirement age of 66.
To your point, what are we doing? What am I doing? I'm primarily focused on the chip crisis. You know, chips, semiconductor chips are in everything. And we are, I've used the Defense Production Act to do a survey of all data from over 150 chip companies. Our convenings with chip companies have led to partnerships. For example, Global Foundries has partnered with Ford and GM to reduce that problem. We've set up an early alert system so that if there's a semiconductor packaging factory that goes down in Malaysia, they can let the Commerce Department know. Commerce set that up and runs that. I stood up a supply chain task force, which has 20-plus leaders in industry. I mean, supply chains are run by the private sector. So what we're doing is increasing transparency to work with them. Yeah, go ahead.
When will inflation start going down?
Well, that would be a question for Chairman Powell. As you know, the Fed handles monetary policy and has the biggest tools around that. And he has indicated he's going to start to take action. So I think, soon, this year.
So you don't think government spending has anything to do with inflation? And permitting and regulatory environment has anything to do with inflation? It's all what the Federal Reserve does?
The Federal Reserve and its monetary policy by far has a bigger impact on inflation.
Folks, we have some big news. Huge news about the fourth stimulus check that I want you to know.
When we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying America. Buy American products. Support American jobs. The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat and Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it.
Madam President, I rise today to once again express my extreme disbelief and disappointment that the United States Senate will vote to confirm Dr. Robert M. Califf to yet again lead the Food and Drug Administration. My opposition is nothing new. In fact, it was exactly 5 years ago, next week, that I came to the Senate floor to urge my colleagues to oppose Dr. Califf's nomination to serve under then President Obama in this same role. In the 5 years since Dr. Califf was confirmed, more than 400,000 Americans and 5,000 West Virginians have died from drug-related overdose. And 2020 was the deadliest year on record for drug-related overdoses. 1,386 West Virginians and nearly 95,000 Americans died from a drug-related overdose. That number is just increasing, with over 100,000 Americans having died from overdose between April 2020 and April 2021. Let's not beat around the bush. Dr. Califf bears a great deal of responsibility for these deaths. We have a luxury with this nomination that we are not usually granted, because Dr. Califf was already served as the FDA Commissioner. We have insight into how he will lead the agency. Dr. Califf's previous tenure, drug-related overdoses went up. 5 years later, they're up again, and this time at record numbers. In fact, despite his pledge to overhaul the FDA's policy during his tenure and immediately following it, the FDA approved 5 new opiates for market. And at that same time, they removed only 1. The wise Dr. Maya